Hello, everybody. I'm Marlon Reis. I'm back at the Denver Zoo. Luckiest guy in the world, luckiest first gentleman in the world, I should say. This is part of an ongoing series that I've had the privilege of doing with the experts here at the zoo to meet some of the incredible animals who are here and learn about the programs that the zoo is doing to conserve species and really just educate the public, help, and be educated myself about some of these incredible animals. So today we are here with Mike, and we are with the greater one-horned rhino. Yes, I wanted to make sure I got that correct. We were talking a bit before, but in terms of the mother-daughter bond or bonds that they form, do they stay together their entire lives long?
Generally, 3 or 4 years is how long they'll stay together. So a lot of it has to do with whether or not the mom gets pregnant again. So if she were to get pregnant, their gestation, she carries a calf for 15 months. So even if she were to get pregnant today, which is not going to happen, it'd be almost another year and a half before we had another rhino calf. But that is one thing in the wild that could result in the mom weaning the calf from her, ushering the calf away to make room for a new calf to take care of. Because the moms really, like you said earlier, Marlon, the moms really do need to pay attention with the calves. Whether it's a tiger, when they're Juna was 144 pounds when she was born. So in the wild, tigers could be a problem for such a young rhino. And also flooding and monsoons. The mom really needs to keep a very close eye on one calf at a time.
How old do they typically live?
Yeah, that surprises folks a lot of times. These guys, greater one-horned rhinos, can live to be 40 or even into their 40s, which is a pretty long time. We have a black rhino here named Rudy, and black rhinos, maybe 30 would be about it. But for these guys, 40s is a pretty normal lifespan.
It's a good long time.
Oh, it is. And Tensing is 14 right now. So Tensing is, she's been at breeding age. The females reach maturity around 8 years old. So Tensing's been able to breed for a while, but she's a young adult.
Sure. Well, I did not want to miss the opportunity for you to be able to tell the audience, Mike, that they're mother and daughter, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, I should have said
No, I should have asked first.
So this one closest to us is Juna. You can come up and pet her too.
Yeah.
So
this is my favorite.
This is Juna. She's the calf. Juna is 2 years old, and Tensing is her mom.
Something that I'm really enjoying learning about, and I'm asking questions of all of the experts I have the benefit of talking to, is the role that species play within their ecosystems. And you spoke a little bit about this earlier, Mike, but I think a key piece to people caring about species is what would happen if they suddenly were not in the ecosystems that they were meant to be in. I tend to hear that other animals would be affected because they're doing a job in their ecosystem. They're altering the terrain, and so I was curious what these rhinos do in their ecosystems, and whether or not that has an obvious impact on other species, and why we want people to care about conservation and conserving them.
That's, I don't know if anything could be more important, but I think the first thing that I think about a lot, Marlon, is I just personally cannot imagine how strange it would be to think like, well, we used to have rhinos on this planet, and we used to have orangutans or something, or we used to have gorillas. I just cannot imagine a world um, that we don't protect and value these guys for what they are, and for how long, however many millions of years they've been here, even before we were around. Rhinos are considered, they're mega herbivores, and they live in those, India and Nepal, with other big animals like Asian elephants. But what these guys do is they um, they can connect habitat by kind of blazing trails through some really tall, deep stuff that other animals can't get through. And so, they'll often take the same track for maybe even a lifetime, to get from one feeding area to another, or and just traveling. And in doing that, they create these corridors that are even important for animals here in the state of Colorado. You hear about wildlife corridors, and that not only do you need habitat that's suitable for for animals, but you also need a way for the animals who live in this habitat to get to that habitat. It's like on Highway 9 going north out of Silverthorne, where the state built those wonderful wildlife corridors where things like elk and mule deer can travel from one area to another. Well, these guys can do that, without building a bridge, just by walking and creating those pathways through the forest. They also disperse seeds, as they're feeding and walking around.
They're pollinators.
Correct. Yeah, they
People
drop it
think
in
of
there.
bees, right? But we have pollinators that are expand our vision of what a pollinator can be.
Yeah. Yep. And they'll carry a plant seed from wherever they eat it to wherever it leaves them. And that can help keep the forest healthy by dispersing seeds, versus a tree dropping its seeds underneath there where it's not going to have the right conditions. It's in the shade versus maybe someplace that's more suitable. So that's also
a key. I know that I could ask questions, Mike, all day long, but I always love to also ask and make sure that I get in. Are there things that that our audience watching can do to either contribute or help the work that you guys are doing here, or take an interest and help the wild populations of these guys? And
yeah, certainly. As far as what we do here, I think coming to the zoo, visiting the zoo often. The zoo, even for someone who's here 5 days a week, the zoo changes so much. I remember being a kid and visiting my local zoo, and maybe we'd go a couple of times a year. But really, things change so much, especially at our zoo. We're getting new exhibits and new animals so frequently. You could really come every month and see something different. We hear a little bit of construction in the background. That's one exhibit going down and a new one that would replace it in the future. So there's always something happening. Folks can also become members at our zoo, and that's another wonderful way to support our zoo and also the work we do with these rhinos. And as far as what people can do for rhinos, I know it seems hard to think about how you can help a rhino that lives, across the world in India or Nepal. A great way to do that would to just be a little bit conscious of some of the products we buy. We talked about palm oil. Palm oil is in so many things, lotions and shampoos and foods. It's just kind of it's a cheap, relatively cheap ingredient that a lot of products have. And there is such a thing as sustainable palm oil. That's where forest is not being just wiped out and chopped down for the sake of a palm oil plantation. There are sustainable palm oil sources, and there are apps you guys can download on your phone. And what you do is you'll basically scan a barcode, and it'll say, this brand of shampoo has sustainably sourced palm oil, and just one or two choices like that amongst
Make a
millions and billions of people, certainly will make a difference.
It's incredible, right? One person, I run into this a lot. People think I have no power over, and I always say, well, wait, we vote, of course, we vote, cast our votes and our ballots, but we vote with our dollars, and that maybe is the most powerful way that we vote of all, right? We can change industries and move them in more compassionate directions. And okay, one last thing, just because I thought this was so cool.
Sure.
You mentioned to me that they don't sweat. And I know this comes up with other animals, but I would love for you to share with the audience how they cool off.
Sure, sure. So they don't sweat like we do. They sweat a little on their feet, but not like we do. What they do have is their skin is, if you look at rhino skin or elephant skin, and you look up close, if you look on the internet and you look at an image up close, it's covered in these tiny little cracks, and each one of those cracks is like a channel. So imagine my skin getting wet. If I drop some water on my skin, it kind of just sits there, or maybe falls, off the side a little. For rhino skin, those little channels sort of they disperse the water really evenly and thoroughly, and all that water, just a small amount of water, can cover a large surface area, and then so they're able to cool themselves effectively with those channels. It's really incredible.
It's such an amazing adaptation. I love learning all of these facts. It's
Me too.
you could be we could spend the whole day talking about the different ways that animals survive and thrive in their natural environments. But the overall point, I think, always remains the same no matter what species. Protecting them, protecting what the gift that we've been given in the form of all of this great biodiversity, and imagining for our kids and our kids' kids, what would a world be? What kind of a world would we live in if we didn't have these amazing animals, that capture our imagination, and so we have to do everything we can to protect them. So I just so appreciate it, Mike.
Thanks, Marlon.
I'm a huge fan. And as I've mentioned, pachyderms are my favorite here at the zoo. So always the first that I visit, and I always make sure to say goodbye whenever I'm leaving.
Nice. I'm a huge fan of you and your husband too, so it's nice to meet you.
Thank you, Mike.
Likewise.
It means a lot to me. So, in a sometimes thankless job, in my second life, maybe I aspire to be like you guys. Maybe I can work at a zoo. Even as just a volunteer, I'd be happy.
Send us off, Marlon.
All right, well, thank you guys so much for joining us for another excellent episode. We're going to be continuing to do these regularly. We have beautiful weather today, so we were able to see the animals up close. I will be posting tomorrow on my Facebook page just a list of fun facts and things that we learned today for anyone who didn't catch it. But this will also be on my Facebook page, and of course on the Denver Zoo's page, which is much more exciting even. So please go check it out and take an interest. That's it. Take an interest in the animals that we get to share our world with and what we can do to help protect them.